Okay, now, didn't realize I started recording that fast. This is a continuation of the brake chamber replacement where somebody had installed them incorrectly. Instead of struggling to take the pins out, to turn the nut, where's it at? Bolt, whatever. See if I can accomplish this here to get it backed off over that way in order to pull the snap ring off up here and then slide the whole slack adjuster off. I said no. It's less labor to take some wrenches and get that one loose, which took a nice long wrench. Actually doubled up combination wrenches, and then the bottom one impacted off with the park brakes released. So the spring tightened by the air chamber pushing it that way towards the front of the chamber, draws the rod inward like it is right now. Did that on all three that were in the incorrect position, that needed to be raised up from the bottom slot to the top slot, because here the brake rod was rubbing against the chamber. I do not know how the person who put this all together couldn't see that. And I don't know how they got these pins in place and all. It must have been an awful struggle. I don't know what they did. I really don't. I don't need to see and understand how somebody could have screwed that up so easily, when it was probably more work to screw it up than to do it right. But anyway, what it did is took all three chambers loose by their bolts there, and then had someone go pull out the yellow air brake valve to release the air, so the rod, where's the rod extended. That gave the slack to be able to lift the chambers, so I had to hold up both brake chambers at the same time, which left no hand to put a nut and washer on. So I had to get to someone to start one nut at the top of this, which is actually the left-hand chamber, because we're looking towards the rear of the truck. Your left and right goes according to your position behind the steering wheel, sitting your round tail in the seat. Okay. So I held them up while the brakes were released. Then while the brakes were set and the rods extended. So then I had the brakes released again as they slowly drew the rods in by air power on a rubber diaphragm. Then I held the chambers up in the place they needed to be. They got popped into place. I got one nut on there. Then I was able to let go of the left-hand chamber, go over here, and myself put a nut and washer on the right-hand one. Then put the bottom nuts and washers. And then with the ratchet wrench, a nice 15/16 gear wrench, which was so much easier than a regular combination wrench, one little eighth of a turn at a time or quarter of a turn at a time, I was able to use the ratchet wrench and turn it up, and then double wrench to get them nice and tight on the top, then impacted both bottom ones. Then I had to go to the rear axle, and sure enough, I couldn't get it to line up, so I had to set the brakes to extend the rod, raise it up in the air, and have the brakes released again, and let the bolt get in place, put the nut and washer and whatever, get it all tightened down the same way. And then I had to readjust all three, because sure enough, when I cranked down those slack adjusters here with the 7/16 socket and a long swivel head ratchet, 3/8 drive, they turned in further than I had backed them out earlier, because of the repositioning of the brake rod by moving these bolts up to where they actually belong. So I saved a minimum of an hour, possibly likely 2 hours, because of the struggles to get things to line up right, by just going ahead and using a combination wrench here to pop this loose, and then a gear wrench to rotate it quicker, to take it off, and then same thing to go back on and tighten up, and then, you know, being able to use the impact and extension down there. So we got to think when we're doing things before doing them, to make it easier on ourselves and to save time. And again, I seriously wish people would pay attention to do things right the first time, so I don't have to do it. Have a blessed day, folks. And if somebody can benefit from this information I provide, please send it out so I don't just waste my time. Thank you all.